Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting lecture of law with me, CA Preeti Agarwal. In my earlier session, I had discussed the clauses of the definition starting with the letter A and B. In today's session, we are going to discuss all the clauses which begin with the letter C, D, and E. And I'm also going to give you a story to remember all the section numbers in a line. Let us first revise what we discussed in the earlier lecture. Yes. So, in my earlier session, I had discussed the definition of abridged prospectus, which is nothing but a summary version of prospectus because nobody has the time to read the full prospectus. Then we discussed accounting standards, and here we realized that ICAI recommends the accounting standards to NFRA. NFRA will then examine and they will further recommend the standards to the central government. The central government will examine it and in consultation with the NFRA prescribe the accounting standards. Then we discussed articles, which mean the articles of the company with which the company was originally registered. So the articles which were filed at the time of incorporation and the articles which were amended from time to time, or if you did not have an article, then the model article will be considered as article of the company. Associate company we will discuss when we study types of companies. Auditing standards also, they are how to check the books of accounts. So the standards which tell us how to check the books of accounts, they are recommended by ICAI, they are recommended to NFRA. NFRA will then examine them and further recommend them to the central government. The central government will prescribe the auditing standards in consultation with NFRA. So I had discussed that this brings about a lot of uniformity, and every company will then start following the same standards, so it is easy to compare, and we ensure that there is a lot of transparency, accountability, etc. Then we discussed what is authorized capital board of directors. It means when all the directors they come together, this collective body is known as board. Then we studied the meaning of books and paper, books or paper. In that, I gave you a mnemonic BD square VWM. Okay. So, books, deeds, documents, vouchers. Then you have writings, minutes, which are either maintained in the electronic form or they may be maintained in paper form. Books of accounts, yes, it includes the records which give us information about the money received, the money spent. Yes, so cash book for that. Purchase, sale. So purchase book, sales book is prepared for that. Asset and liability recorded in the journal. And certain companies, they are also required to maintain cost accounts, which we will study when we come to the chapter accounts of company. Okay, so you maintain cost accounts, you also get a cost audit done. Then we have branch office. It is the establishment which is described as a branch, not important for exam.
So guys, I had done a small video on the concept of abridged prospectus. Let us go and watch that video to revise the concept.
IPO, invest in the IPO of my company. I want to apply for shares of your company. Sir, first read this prospectus, only then you can apply for the shares of my company. But I don't have time to read this bulky document. Okay, don't worry. Take a summary of the full prospectus. It has all the important information that you need to know before buying the shares of the company. This is an abridged prospectus. 25 keywords of company law that you must know. Episode 8, abridged prospectus. Now, abridged prospectus is defined under section 2 clause 1 of the Companies Act. It is a summary version of the full prospectus. See, as an investor, one must read this document to get an idea about the risks associated with the securities. One interesting provision is that what summary is to be written, that is specified by SEBI. Otherwise, the company will write only that information which is beneficial to itself. Lastly, remember that abridged prospectus is not required when the securities are offered to an underwriter or when the securities are not offered to the public. See, the logic is very simple. When public is not involved, then prospectus is not required to be issued, protection is not required.
In today's session, we will discuss all the clauses beginning with the letters C, D, and E. So I have on purpose broken the chapter into small parts so that it is easy for you to learn. It is easy for you to memorize. Okay. And also, I'm very sure that sometimes in a day, you may want to watch two lectures also. So, 40 minutes, 1 hour lecture is always manageable. Yes. So, I want to make the lecture as interesting as possible. And I'm sure that after these sessions are over, you will message me and say, Ma'am, law has now become my favorite subject. I'm waiting for that message from you. All right. Before I begin with the discussion, let us first understand the story which I have prepared for the clauses beginning with the letter C. All right. Now, first listen, understand the story, and then I will give you time to copy. Okay. So it's always better that you understand and then you start writing. You will be able to memorize it better. Now, these are all the clauses. I've prepared a list of all the clauses beginning with the letter C. So they begin with clause 15, called up capital, 16, charge, 17, chartered accountant. There are a few definitions which are not applicable for your attempt, but I feel that if I want to make you learn all the sections in detail, I will have to cover the head, the section name at least. Okay. So I've covered a list, but there are certain definitions which are not there in your syllabus. All right. But I have covered the section name. Let us go through the story. Yes, do you remember that in my earlier session, the story revolved around how I would like to incorporate a company? So I was getting the memorandum articles ready, I was arranging for capital. Now the company is incorporated. Okay. Now to run a company, I need money. So here is a conversation between me and, let's say, some other friend of mine, or let it make it more personal for you. What do you say? So you are going to be a professional. So let me make you the one who's advising your friend. Okay. So let's do that way. So you are the advisor. You can be any person. You can be a chartered accountant. You can assume any role that you want. You're either a chartered accountant or a company secretary or a management accountant. Okay. So let's say that somebody has come to you and you are having conversation wherein you are advising that person. Okay. So you're sitting in your AC office and you are having a conversation with some friend of yours and you're giving advice. So let's see what their questions are. So the story is such: how much money, how much of our own money should we spend? Can we borrow money from outside? Yes, so that is a question which they are asking. How much money should we invest? Okay, let's borrow from the public too. All right, because I think that public is the best source of raising finance because they don't ask questions. When we go to the bank, they will question, Acha, tell me, when are you going to repay the money? These are the terms and conditions. Whatever money you earn, first use it to repay us. Banks impose a lot of questions, whereas the general public is not concerned. They are only concerned with the dividend and the growth that you are offering to their shares. Okay. So, how much of our own money should we invest? Let's borrow from public too. Okay, let's call for it. So, you are saying, okay, let's call for it. Then your friend is asking, will we have to pay charges for it? Okay. So, let's call for it. Then he is saying, do we have to pay charges for it? Because he knows that money comes at a cost. So, he's asking, do we have to pay some charge for it? I don't think so. So you say, I don't think so. But please confirm it with the CA, CEO, CFO of your company whether certain specific charges are applicable to your company or not. As I mentioned in my earlier session, this story is just to make us remember the section numbers. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. This is not how things actually work in law. It's just for our understanding. So let's call for it. Then he says, do we have to pay some charges for it? You say, I don't think so. But I'm a fresher. Why don't you ask your chartered accountant, CEO, CFO of your company? Clause 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So you learn the story and you will be able to remember all the clauses. Yes, yes, we shall confirm, your friend replied. Guaranteed? Yes, I will confirm it. All right, then let's form a company limited by shares. That is your advice. Let's form a company limited by share. He says, but I'm worried. What if the company goes into liquidation? I have worked so hard to incorporate it. You say, don't worry. I have consulted a company secretary and a company secretary in practice. So stop worrying and become a contributory. You will get control of the company also. Then your friend says, that's great. And I'm also thinking of appointing a cost accountant too. He will help me in court matters. Okay. So these are the various clauses. Let's go through the story once again. So you are advising your friend, and he says, how much of our own money should we, invest? So you say, let's borrow from the public also. Okay, let's call for it. Okay, so the word call gives us an indication of called up capital. Then he says, do we have to pay charges for it? Do you want me to relate it with a list? Okay, let's do that. So you say, all right, let's call for it. Then he says, do we have to pay some charges for it? You say, see, I don't think so. But please ask the chartered accountant, CA, CEO, CFO of your company. Then he says, yes, yes, I will confirm. And you say, guaranteed? Yes, yes, guaranteed. I will confirm it with them. Okay. Then you say, okay, let's form a company limited by shares. He says, but I'm worried. What if the company goes into liquidation? You say, don't worry. I have consulted a company secretary and also a company secretary in practice. So stop worrying and become a contributory. You will get the control of your company also. He says, I'm thinking of appointing a cost accountant. He will help me with the court matters, whatever are the matters relating to the court. So, students, this was a small story to help you remember all the clauses that begin with the letter C. So, now you can just pause the video and write this list in your notebook. Finish writing, all right. Again, you will pause the video and write this story in your notebook, just below the list that you have written. Okay, continue writing. Please write the clause number with some different color ink. All right, finish writing. Okay, continue writing. All right. So these were the clauses beginning with the letter C. Now let us discuss the clauses beginning with the letter D. So we have clause 30, debenture, 31, deposit, 32, depository, derivative, director, dividend, and document. Let's continue our story. Just a thought. Can we raise money only by equity? That is your friend, he is asking. It's just a thought. Can we raise money only with the help of equity? No, 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 you say. No, there are other ways also, like debentures, deposits, etc. All the securities shall be kept with a depository. Have you heard about derivatives? That is another instrument. He says no. Then you are like, okay. All right. So you are just discussing with him the different other ways of raising money. So he says that is equity the only way? You say no. We have debentures, deposits. All the securities are kept with the depository. But have you heard of derivatives? They are also a very good instrument. No, it's okay. Now you say that, see, you will need directors to manage the company. They will work very hard, earn good profit, and give you dividend. You will get dividend only by showing correct documents to the company. Okay. So now let us relate this with the list. Just a thought. Can we raise money only by equity? No, there are other ways also, like debenture, deposit. All the securities will be kept with a depository. Have you heard of derivatives? No, it's okay. You need to appoint directors who will manage the company. They will work hard and earn good profits to give you dividend. But you will get dividend only when you show correct and proper documents to the company. Easy? Yes. Okay. So let us write this. All right, continue writing. Next. Okay. So these are the clauses starting with E. There is no story. There are just two clauses. Clause 37, employee stock option, and clause 38, expert. All right. So with this, let us begin our session where we will discuss all the clauses beginning with the letter C. Okay, just let me find that page. Here. Now, clause 15, called up capital. What is the meaning of called up capital? It is that money which we have called from the company. So from the members, sorry. So let's say, for example, the face value of share is 10 rupees. Now it depends on the company. They can call the entire money at once itself, or they may say that no, we don't need that much money. As of now, we need only 6 rupees. So this is the called up capital. It is the capital which has been called up for the time being by the company. Ma'am, how much do they normally call? See, they will call only that amount which is required by the company. So if they feel that currently they require only 6 rupees, so they will call 6 rupees, and 4 rupees per share they will call whenever it is required by the company. Now 4 over here is called the uncalled capital. They will call it whenever they require money. Now, who makes these calls? It is the directors. They will realize that we need that we need the money. So, directors, they realize that the money is required to run the company. So, they will make calls and call for the remaining, whatever is unpaid. It means that part of the capital which has been called for payment. Okay. Next, we have the definition of charge. The word charge simply means security. Now, let's say that you went to the bank for money. Okay. So, let's say the company approached the bank and requested the bank for loan of rupees 10 crore. The bank says, yes, sure, we will give you money. But we need security. What if you fail to repay the money? I can sell the security and recover my money. The security which the company gives is known as a charge. It means you are creating a charge on that asset or property of the company which you have given as security. So let's say that the company gives land and building as security. Okay. So they have given this money as, let me write over here, security. It means that a charge has been created by the company on the land and building. Ma'am, what is the meaning of creation of a charge? Now, see, whenever the company has given any asset or property as security, they will have to register this with the ROC. It means they have to inform the ROC. So the company shall inform the ROC that, listen, the land and building has been given as security, let's say to bank A. So they have to register this charge. It means they have to inform the ROC. Ma'am, why is it required? See, what if they have already given this security to bank A? Then they want another loan of 20 crore from bank B. Okay. So they approached bank B. The company said that I want loan of 20 crore. Bank says, give me security. They say you take this land and building. Now this land and building has already been given to come to bank A as security. It means that if something goes wrong, bank A can sell this land and building and take money. But you are also giving this land and building to bank B. Now what if the company defaults? Bank A and B will start fighting with each other. No, this land was given to me as security. Bank B will say, no, it was given to me as security. So law says that whenever you create a charge, it has to be registered with ROC. Now what will happen when the company, they created a charge on this land and building, they registered it with ROC. It means now the information is available with ROC that land and building has been given as security to bank A. In case the company defaults, land and building will be sold, and first it whatever money is received, that will be paid to bank A. Now, if the company is offering the same land and building as security to bank B, it is the duty of bank B to check whether that land and building is free or whether it has been given as security. Now, this is possible only when information is available with ROC. That is why we say that every charge must be registered. So, when the company registers this charge with ROC, now information is available publicly that company has given land and building as security. When the company offers the same land and building to bank B, they will go and check and say, Are, you have already given it to bank B. We cannot give you 20 crore rupees. We will give you only 10 crore rupees, considering that if something goes wrong, land will be sold, building will be sold, money will be paid to bank A. What will be left for me? So, considering the amount of security left for me, I can give you loan of only 10 crore. Now, this decision was possible only because bank B first verified the information with the ROC. That is why we say you create a charge, you give something as security, but please register that with the ROC. More details will be discussed when we study the chapter registration of charge, not now. What is the meaning of charge? It means any interest or lien. Okay, you can call it lien also. Any interest or lien which is created on the property or assets of a company or any of its undertaking or both. You are giving that asset or property as security. And charge also includes mortgage. Earlier, the definition of charge only said that charge includes mortgage. The word charge was not defined in the 1956 Act. In fact, 2013 was the first act to ever define a charge. So, what is the meaning of charge? It means any interest or lien. Now, what is the meaning of interest or lien? Now, lien is possible only when the lender has physical possession of the goods, isn't it? Now, let's say that I want to take loan of 5,000 and I give you this pencil as security. It's an electronic pencil. So, I give it to you as security. Now, you have the physical possession of this pen. So, when you have the physical possession, you can continue to retain that possession till the money is repaid. So, lien is possible only when you have physical possession of that security. But in my example, does bank have the physical possession of this land and building? No. Company is continuing to use this land and building. But what does bank A have? It has interest in that asset. What interest? If the company fails to repay the money, bank will sell this land and building and recover money. So they are interested in that property. This is nothing but a charge. So charge is my interest in that property or asset. But if I have physical possession, then I can continue to retain that possession. No, I will not give back this pencil to you unless the loan is repaid. That is the exercising right of lien. So either interest or lien which is created on property or assets, either of the company or any of its undertaking, can be any company in which the company has invested money, that is known as an undertaking. So the charge may be created either by the company or its undertaking, or maybe on the assets of both. Now, this charge means we are giving the asset or property as security. That is a charge. It includes mortgage. Now, mortgage is generally a word which is used for immovable property. So, when immovable property is given as security, it is known as charge. Again, I repeat, we are going to discuss this in a lot of detail in the chapter registration of charge. But this is the definition. Next, we have the meaning of chartered accountant, not important for exam. Chartered accountant is defined under the section 2, clause B of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. He is the one who holds certificate of practice. Okay, so whenever the word chartered accountant is used in the Companies Act, it means a chartered accountant who is holding a valid certificate of practice. Okay, now Chief Executive Officer, very popularly known as CEO. And with this, we will also discuss Chief Financial Officer, CFO. You know, I was watching Shark Tank the other day, and in Shark Tank, these very small entrepreneurs generally come to create awareness of their brand and to take funding. Have you ever seen the episodes of Shark Tank? Very interesting. Now, see, it's a small business. So, in a small business, when they introduce, they sometimes say, I am the CEO, Chief Everything Officer, because I'm doing everything for the company. So, I really found it very funny, but it is also very relatable. In small businesses, what happens? The main in charge, the owner, he is the Chief Everything Officer. So, CEO, that's just jokes apart. CEO is the Chief Executive Officer. Now, the purpose, the profile is hidden in the name itself, the designation itself. Chief Executive Officer, he executes all the acts of the company. It means the directors, they will take decisions. But who is the one who's actually getting the things done in the company? It's the Chief Executive Officer. He executes the instructions and the decisions of the, you can say, the directors or the members. And who is the Chief Financial Officer? He takes care of finance. You have other designations also, like COO, that is Chief Operating Officer. He looks after the operations. Okay, so we have the Chief Executive Officer. He is an officer who has been, please highlight the keyword, designated as such. So we designate him, we give him that position, that title is given to him. Whereas Chief Financial Officer, it means the person who is appointed as a Chief Financial Officer. He is appointed to that position. Okay. So Chief Executive Officer, he is the one who is designated. It means he is, like he was working as an associate, then he got promoted, he became the manager, then the senior manager, head of department. Now he is the CEO because he knows how the company functions. So he has been designated as such. Whereas CFO need not come up the hierarchy, he can be appointed from outside also directly to that position. Although this is not important for us, but yes, it is important to know. Uh, this is not important in the sense that they will not ask all this in the exam. They will not ask what is the function of a CEO, how is he different from CFO. All that will not come. It's just that you need to be aware. Okay. Now, these definitions, whatever we are discussing, they should also be read with. You can write if you want. They should be read with Section 2, Clause 51. Now, we are going to discuss Section 2, Clause 51, which relates to the definition of KMP, okay, Key Managerial Personnel. And Key Managerial Personnel is also discussed under Section 203, okay. So, you can just give a reference that, whenever later on you come to across these sections, all this should be connected. Like we discussed in clause 18 and 19, who is a CEO, CFO, because this will be mentioned in the definition of KMP. I'll show that definition also to you. So see over here, we have clause 51. So over here, see, it is mentioned the Chief Financial Officer, Chief Executive Officer. So where is it defined? It is defined in clause 18. It is defined in clause 19. So, we will remember the section 2. So, it is to be read with section 2, clause 51 and section section 203, you can also write that they basically discuss the definition and the appointment of KMP in the Companies Act. Okay? So they cover the definition and provisions for appointment of key managerial personnel. KMP means key managerial personnel. This is section 2, clause 51 and section 203 of Companies Act. It is always important to mention the act to which these sections relate. Now, who is a CEO and CFO? Although this is not important for exam, but it will help you in practical life. Okay. Yes. Who is a CEO and how is he different from CFO? Why am I showing you all this? Because everyone dreams of being an entrepreneur. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you should know what is the difference. And also, when you listen to these terms, now it is very common in today's business world to talk about CEOs and CFOs. So you should know the meaning as well as the difference. This is extra. That is why I have already written it for you. We are just going to read it very quickly. Chief Executive Officer. So he leads the company. He's executing the instructions and directions given by the directors and the members. Chief Financial Officer, he manages finance. CEO, he drives the strategy, growth, and innovation at a very top level, and he manages the entire company. Whereas Financial Officer is only concerned about finance. He ensures stability and he establishes discipline. Represents the company to the stakeholders, which include the shareholders, the creditors, the debtors, government, etc. The stakeholder is a very wide term as compared to shareholder. Shareholder is one of the stakeholders. Stakeholder also includes debtor, creditor, society, government, etc. So they represent the company. He is acting like a public face. Okay, he is representing the company to the public. Whereas Chief Financial Officer, he only reports financials to the board and shareholders. His role is very limited to finance. CEO sets corporate values at a top level of the company. He is doing very general kind of work for the entire company. Whereas CFO, he only sets financial benchmark. This is what we need to achieve. CEO evaluates the overall business risk because he's managing the entire company. So he has to evaluate the entire risk. CFO, he evaluates only the financial risk. Should we invest here? What if we take this decision? What will be the impact on our cash flow? So those things are studied by the CFO. Please write this. Pause the video and write this. Again, it is not important for exam. It will not be asked. It is for our knowledge. Done writing. Very good. Let us proceed. What is the meaning of the company? Company is defined under section 2 clause 20 of the act. We have studied this earlier. It means a company incorporated under this act. This act means 2013 act or any previous company law. This includes the 1956 act. You have the 1913. You have 1882. We have before this also, not important for us. Now, what does it mean? Now, if Reliance was incorporated in the year 1973, that time the 1956 Act was applicable, they cannot argue that 1956 Act is more suitable for us. It is beneficial to us. We will follow that only. No. The word company clearly says that wherever the word company is used in this Act, it refers to the company incorporated under this Act or any previous company law. Now, my company was actually incorporated in the year 2019. So, which act will apply to me? 2013 Act, yes. Which act will apply to Tata Steel? 2013 Act. They cannot argue that no, we were incorporated when the 1913 Act was applicable. Sorry. The word company, wherever it is used in the Act, refers to the company incorporated under this act and any previous law. It means that the act will apply to every company irrespective of when it was incorporated. So the Companies Act 2013 applies to all the companies which were incorporated either under this act or any previous company law. Next, we have the definition of a company limited by guarantee, and we also have company limited by shares. Now, I have a small chart for it so that it becomes very easy for us to understand the concept, and we are going to use this chart in the next chapter also when we will discuss the types of companies. So please write this chart, but first let us understand. Yes, I had given you time to write CEO, CFO. No? Now, what is the meaning of the word liability? See, whenever we discuss liability, we are actually talking about liability of the members. We never talk about liability of the company because liability of a company is always unlimited. How? I will explain. Now, what is the meaning of the word liability? Liability, it means that the amount of money that I need to pay. Now, you may have a company limited by shares, you may have a company limited by guarantee, you may even have an unlimited liability company. Now, what is the meaning of company limited by shares? It means that my liability is limited to the amount unpaid on shares, or in other words, you can say my liability is limited to the face value of shares. It means that I cannot ask the members to give more than the face value per share. FV means face value. So the liability is limited to the face value. So if the face value is 10, they have already paid 6 rupees per share. Now what is the liability? It is 4 rupees. Can I tell the shareholders, Arey, listen, I need more money. Instead of 4, will you give 7 rupees? Can I ask him to give more? No. Maximum that can be recovered from the shareholder is the face value per share. What is the meaning of company limited by guarantee? Now, this is a type of company in which the liability is restricted to the amount of guarantee which we can recover at the time of winding up. Now, during the lifetime, I don't need the shareholders' money because I get a lot of money from entrance fees, admission fees, subscription, etc. But I will need the help of my members at the time of winding up. So I went to member and I told him, Acha, listen, will you help me during winding up? He said, yes. I said, how much will you pay? He said, 10,000 rupees. I said, promise? He said, yeah, guaranteed. Then I went to the other shareholder. How much will you give? He said, 20,000. Promise? Yes, guaranteed. I will give. Such type of company wherein the members promise to give some money at the time of winding up is known as a guarantee company. Now, it is not compulsory that the amount guaranteed by every member should be the same. It depends on the member. We will make a list. Mr. A is going to give 10,000, B is going to give 20,000, C is going to give 50,000. Such type of companies are known as guarantee companies. But that's not the case. What if I need money even during the lifetime? So we leave it to the company. C company, you may be a company limited by guarantee and you may also have share capital. Or you may be company limited by guarantee, not having share capital. In case I am a company limited by guarantee and I also have share capital, what will be my liability? I will have two liabilities. One is the amount which is unpaid on shares, and other is the amount of guarantee. When will I be liable? I means the member. When will I be liable for the amount unpaid on shares? This amount can be recovered anytime during the lifetime. So the amount unpaid on shares can be recovered from the member anytime during the lifetime. Whenever you need money, you can call for it. But the amount of guarantee can be recovered only at the time of winding up. I don't have share capital, then I have only one liability, amount of guarantee, which we can recover from the member at the time of winding up. Again, we are discussing the liability of members. We are not discussing the liability of the company. Company's liability is always unlimited. Company cannot say, no, bank, I am not going to repay your full loan. I am liable only for 10 crore. Company can never say that. If the loan is of 20 crore, you cannot say I will pay only 10 crore. That is my liability. Company is always liable to pay whatever is due from it. The company will have to sell the assets, make arrangement for money, but you will have to pay. So the company's liability is always unlimited, whereas yes, members' liability may be limited by shares, guarantee. I can even have an unlimited liability company. Ma'am, you have incorporated a company with unlimited liability. See, the main characteristic of a company is limited liability, and you have gone to incorporate an unlimited liability company. Listen, I agree. In case of unlimited liability company, the liability is unlimited. It is not restricted to what I have promised. My personal assets are also liable. Ma'am, who will purchase the shares of such company? Like, I am purchasing shares knowing that the liability is unlimited. It means my personal assets are also liable. Why will I purchase the shares of such company? See, unlimited liability does not mean that the liability is always unlimited. During the lifetime, the company gets to enjoy limited liability, the members, sorry. It's only at the time of winding up that their liability is unlimited. Who is going to remain a member till lifetime, till winding up? I'll sell the shares in 2 to 3 years. That is why I am not concerned about investing in an unlimited liability company. Who's going to remain here for long? So, even though the liability is unlimited, people still invest. They don't have a very long term horizon. And of course, the liability is unlimited at the time of winding up. तभी देख लेंगे. All right, please write this. Use different ink and also write this. Done, right? Okay. So that was company limited by guarantee. It is a company having the liability of whom? Tell me. Members. We always discuss liability of the member. So they are having liability limited by the memorandum to the amount which they have guaranteed to contribute in the event of winding up. Ma'am, why is it written limited by memorandum? The memorandum has various clauses. So, what is written in the memorandum? The liability clause. So, in the liability clause, I will have to write whether the liability of members is limited, unlimited, whether limited by shares, guarantee. That liability clause is written in the memorandum. That is why they have written the word memorandum. Limited by shares, again, the liability of the members is limited by the memorandum because the liability clause is mentioned in the memorandum. It is one of the clauses. It is limited to the amount unpaid on the share. So if the share is of 100 rupees face value, 75 is paid up, then what is the liability of the member? Only 25 rupees. Correct. Liquidator, company secretary, secretary in practice. We don't have these definitions for exam. Next, we have the definition of contributory. Now, who is a contributory? Okay. I have a small note. Let's write it. Okay. Now, see, a company may be either limited by shares or it may be limited by guarantee. Now, in case the company is limited by shares, then what is the liability? Liability is the amount unpaid on shares. Okay, so what is the liability? Is the amount unpaid on shares. What if the company is limited by guarantee? What is the liability? the amount of guarantee. Now, in case the company is limited by shares, when can we call this unpaid amount? Ma'am, it can be called anytime during the lifetime, or it may be called at the time of winding up. What about guarantee? This amount can be called up only at the time of winding up. Did you understand till here? Now, now let us understand who is a contributory. See, contributory means a person who will contribute some money at the time of winding up. That is the keyword, okay? What if, so let's say that a member, right? You can also say person, but I'll write a member who contributes towards the asset at the time of winding up. Only that person is known as contributory. So my keyword over here is that money, when received at the time of winding up, will make that person a contributory. Okay? Now, if the person is giving the unpaid amount during the lifetime, will he be called as a contributory? Contributory means winding up. Okay. So in this case, if the company is limited by shares and the money is given by the member during the lifetime, then he is known as member. He is not known as contributory, because contributory comes into picture only at the time of winding up. So he is known as a member who is contributing money, but he is not known as a contributory. But what if I am not calling the money during the lifetime? Company went into liquidation. I need money. So I call for this money at the time of winding up. Now the same person, see, members are going to remain the same. The member may give the unpaid amount either during the lifetime or winding up whenever the company is calling. That same person who is now giving money, instead of being called a member, he is known as a contributory. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, we have company X. Okay. And you have a member P. Now, the company is calling money during the lifetime. What is P known as? He is known as member. Correct. But what if this company is calling the unpaid amount at the time of winding up? What is P known as? Instead of member, he is called a contributory. It's just a name given to him. Please don't feel that they are two different persons. No. It is just that the person's name changes. During the lifetime, he is called member. But if he is giving money at the time of winding up, that same person is now known as a contributory. That's it. It's just a name given to him. They are not two different persons. In case of company limited by guarantee, the money is received only at the time of winding up. Then that person is known as contributory. And what if he does have, if the company has share capital also? So in that case, if you are calling during the lifetime, he is contributing as a member, he is known as a member, but at winding up, he is known as a contributory. It's just a name which is given to that person. Name changes. That's it. So please write this. Write this also. Okay. So contributory means a person who is liable, write down A, liable to contribute towards the assets of the company. But when will he contribute? At the time of winding up. I have a doubt over here. The company has shares of face value 10. Mr. P, he has paid the entire money. He has paid rupees 10. Now, for him, the shares are fully paid up. The company went into liquidation. Okay, now the company is being wound up. So, we make a list of all our members. In this list, P's name is also there. Now, the names that we have written, they are known as contributories because we are making this list at the time of winding up. Now, P's name is also written. Yes, he is known as contributory. But tell me, will he actually contribute something? No. Why? Because the shares are fully paid up. Okay. So, although his name is written as a contributory, will he contribute? No. So, although he is not liable to contribute, but he is still known as contributory. It's just a name given to him, nothing else. So, when we make a list of all the members, they are known as our contributories. Then we see, acha, how many are fully paid up? Oh, okay. So, we can't recover anything from them. Call the money from the ones who are liable to pay. Yes, the ones whose shares are not fully paid. We'll call money from them. So they are known as contributories. Okay. But will we call money from them? No. So you can write over here P is known as contributory, but he is not liable to pay anything as his shares are fully paid up. So it is just a name given to him. But will he contribute anything? No. Then we have the concept of control. Now, the control word is basically relevant for the concept of holding and subsidiary. Okay. So it is basically relevant for holding and subsidiary. You will also find the word control when you study the definition of promoter. So promoter is someone who controls the affairs of the company. Okay. So that word control we will find when we study the concept of holding and subsidiary or promoter. Now, what is meaning of control? Now, control word shall include. So it's an inclusive definition. Ma'am, what is inclusive? If they write the word means, okay, control means, it means they are defining. But if they say include, it means all this is included, but you may include something else also. Okay. So it includes the right to appoint majority of the directors. So control means the right. It's the right to appoint majority directors. So let's say, for example, that holding company has purchased 60% shares in the subsidiary company, 60% shares giving voting power, 60% voting power. So it means that now the holding can control who to appoint the directors, who can be removed as directors. So they control the composition of the board of directors. That is the meaning of the word control. I can either appoint or remove any director at my discretion, my wish. We can control the management or the policy decisions exercisable by a person either individually or in concert, means together, whether directly or indirectly. In simple words, I can control the management. Why? Because I own 60% of the voting power. So I can control the management decisions, policy decisions. You have to listen to me. So, because holding owns 60% of the voting power, they may have the right to appoint the directors, or it's not compulsory that I have all the rights, or I control the management. That is control. Now, you must be wondering, ma'am, why will one company allow the other company to control? Like, how will I get the control of someone else? See, it may be through shareholding. Like in my example, H has purchased so many shares that they can now control the directors or the decisions of subsidiary. So, purchasing shares gives that control, but it is not compulsory. The control may be by virtue of some management rights or the shareholding agreement, any other manner. Now, let's say that H has given S lot of loan. Okay, they have given a lot of loan. Because they have given loan, S is now allowing the holding to take decisions, to participate in the management policy decisions, or it is allowing to control the board of directors. Acha, you have given us so much money. Now you see how we are managing that money. So control may be given either because we have purchased a lot of shares giving us voting power, or we have given so much loan to that company that in return they are allowing us to manage the composition of the board or to manage the policy decisions. So this is how we gain control. So speaking of control, let's put a mnemonic. D directors. This will help you to learn. D directors, M management, and S shareholding. BMS. Okay. So if I can appoint or remove the directors, if I can control the policy decision making, I have control. How did I get this control? I purchased lot of shares, or it was written in the management agreement, or I gave so much loan that they allowed me to manage the decisions. Okay. Next we have clause 28, which defines cost accountant and quote. Not important. It's not in our syllabus. Then we have the definition of debenture. Okay, section 2, clause 30, debenture. Now, is equity the only way to raise money? No, there are other ways also. See, I don't want to give ownership of my company. All right. So you take money from the public in the form of loan. You repay it. When we borrow money from the public, it is known as debentures. Okay, we borrow money and we issue debentures. See, equity is never repayable. Okay, it's like I will repay only at the time of winding up. But debentures have a fixed period. They have to be repaid within 10 years. That's the maximum period. So if I want to take loan and I don't want to go to these banks, they impose a lot of conditions. Instead, I can go to the general public. So when the public gives me loan and I give them debentures, and I give them some certificate that it's a proof that I have taken loan from the public, that is known as debenture. So debenture includes, again, this is an inclusive definition. It includes debenture stock when all the debentures come together. Okay, instead of giving you one debenture, let me give you a stock. Like I have made a stock certificate 5 lakhs. So you have to purchase all the shares in that stock. Okay, that it is of 5 lakh rupees. So because of stock, I am able to raise more money in a short period of time. Like if I give you 10 debentures, 20 debentures, 50 debentures, To get 5 lakh rupees, I will have to allot so many debentures. But here, because of debenture certificate, I can just give you one debenture certificate and I take 5 lakh rupees from you. So it's nothing but a consolidation of shares. Okay? And in this case, consolidation of debentures. It includes stock, bonds, any other instrument. So S stock, B bond, other instrument, SBI, which is evidencing a debt. Evidencing means it is showing a debt. Now let's say that you have given 10 lakh rupees to the company as loan. You will want some proof. Arey, I have given you 10 lakh rupees. What is the proof that my 10 lakh is with you? So the company issues a debenture certificate. That certificate shows that the company has to repay that debenture, that debt to you. So it is evidencing a debt, whether constituting a charge on the asset of the company or not. It means whether secured or not. So we may have secured debentures, we may have unsecured debentures, not concerned. It may be secured, it may be unsecured. So what is a debenture? It is nothing but a proof that I have taken loan from the public. It's evidencing, it's showing a debt. Provided that the instruments referred to in Chapter 3D of the RBI Act and any other instrument as notified by the central government will not be treated as debenture. Okay. What exactly is mentioned in Chapter 3D of RBI Act? So there are certain other instruments, like say for example, derivative instruments. You don't have this in exam, okay? So I'm not explaining what are derivative instruments. They derive their value from an underlying asset. For example, forwards, futures. Let me write in singular. Forward, contract. Then you have futures. You have swaps, etc. These are all uh, derivative instruments. You have options also. So derivative instruments, they will not be considered as debenture. We have separate rules for them. Then you have money market instruments. Money market instrument means the instrument which can be easily, very easily converted into cash. Then you have repo and reverse repo. They are not debentures. Now, what is repo? What is reverse repo? I will explain. Here, we will also not include securities. You can write it over here only, okay? Meaning. This again, we are going to study later when we come to debentures chapter. So, securities of central government or the state government, whatever may be notified, or of local authority, that will not be considered as debenture. What exactly is repo and reverse repo? Now, I have a note. Again, this is not in your syllabus. Repo is the rate at which the central bank, RBI, lends money to the commercial bank. So, you are infusing money in the market. So, RBI lends to the commercial bank. That rate is known as repo rate. Now the commercial banks have more cash to lend to the borrower. So this is when you want to influx money in the market. But when we feel that there is a lot of money in the market, RBI, okay, they increase the rate, the amount that the commercial bank has to maintain with RBI. The rate at which the commercial bank can park their surplus funds with the bank. So commercial bank, they park their excess fund. Now they have less cash to give to the borrowers. So basically this increases the liquidity and this reduces the liquidity in the market. Okay, so this you can write down. So when I want to increase the liquidity, I will give them more money. And when I want to reduce, I will tell them, no, now you have to park your excess funds. I will increase the amount that the banks need to keep with RBI because I want to reduce the amount of money. So this is repo, reverse repo. Write this. Again, I'm not going into detail because it is not in your syllabus. This knowledge is sufficient for us. Next, let us continue with this. That deposit. Now, I'm not going into detail right now again because we are going to discuss this in the deposit chapter. See, are you aware of fixed deposit with bank? Yes. So we keep money with the bank as fixed deposit. Instead of that, keep money with the company. That is known as deposit. So there are rules for it, like how much can be accepted, what will not be considered as a deposit. Okay. Deposit include any receipt of money by the company. They may call it by whatever name they want. Deposit, loan, any other form. But it does not include the categories as prescribed. Oh, we had studied that if we read the word prescribed, it means it is prescribed in some rule. So it is given in rule 2 of, let's write companies also. Companies acceptance of deposit rules 2014. So rule 2 will specify certain receipts which are not considered as deposit. Then we have depository derivative not in our syllabus. Director, it means he's appointed to the board of the company. So the word director doesn't mean over here film director. It means he is the one who's appointed to the board. Keyword is appointed. Dividend. It includes interim dividend. Okay, what is the meaning of dividend? What is dividend? Dividend is returning the profit to the members. Okay, so you are a member of my company, we earn profit. Take, this is your share. Okay, we are sharing the company's profit with the members. That is dividend. Now, dividend may be of two types. You have final dividend and interim dividend. Final dividend refers to the dividend which is declared in AGM just once a year, whereas interim dividend refers to the dividend declared between two AGM. Now, there is no limit, but generally it is given quarterly. Not necessary, it's not compulsory, it's optional. So, final dividend and interim dividend. This we will study in chapter payment of dividend, declaration and payment of dividend. So, final dividend and interim dividend. Now, the word dividend over here includes, it means that we are not just talking about final dividend, but we are including interim dividend also. Ma'am, what does it mean? It means that wherever the word dividend is given in the act, it means it can be either final dividend or interim dividend. Okay, so the word dividend includes interim also. What is the technical meaning of it? It simply means that the provisions applicable, you can write it along with me, provisions applicable to final dividend shall apply to interim dividend also. Okay. So the word dividend it includes final as well as interim. So wherever the word dividend is used in the act, those provisions will apply to final as well as interim dividend. Okay.
Well, I had done a video on dividend also. Although it's in Hindi, but I think you will understand. There are subtitles. Let's watch that video also.
कल मेरे स्टूडेंट को अपनी पहली सैलरी मिली तो उसने मुझसे कहा कि मैम ये पैसे कहाँ इन्वेस्ट करूँ. मैंने कहा शेयर्स खरीद ले. बोलता है लेकिन मैम मैं शेयर्स क्यों खरीदूँ, अगर मैं बैंक में डालूंगा तो मुझे इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा, अगर मैं प्रॉपर्टी या गोल्ड में डालता हूँ तो मुझे ग्रोथ मिलेगी, मुझे शेयर्स में क्या मिलेगा. मैंने कहा कि तुझे दोनों मिलेंगे, इनकम इन द फॉर्म ऑफ डिविडेंड और ग्रोथ भी मिलेगी. 25 कीवर्ड्स ऑफ कंपनी लॉ दैट यू मस्ट नो. एपिसोड 5 डिविडेंड. डिविडेंड का मतलब क्या होता है? डिविडेंड इज नथिंग बट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ द कंपनीज प्रॉफिट अमंग द शेयर होल्डर्स. डिविडेंड दो तरीके के होते हैं, एक फाइनल डिविडेंड और एक इंटरिम डिविडेंड. कंपनीज एक्ट का सेक्शन 2 क्लॉज 35 जो डिविडेंड को डिफाइन करता है ना, मेरे हिसाब से वो बहुत ही इनकम्प्लीट डेफिनेशन है. क्यों? क्योंकि क्या लिखा है, मीनिंग ऑफ डिविडेंड तो एक्सप्लेन ही नहीं किया, सिर्फ इतना ही लिख दिया है दैट डिविडेंड इंक्लूड्स इंटरिम डिविडेंड. इसका मतलब है कि जो प्रोविजंस फाइनल डिविडेंड को अप्लाई करेंगे वही प्रोविजंस इंटरिम डिविडेंड को भी अप्लाई करेंगे. अरे लेकिन डिविडेंड का मीनिंग क्या है वो तो डेफिनेशन में लिखा होना चाहिए ना, वो नहीं लिखा, तो मेरे हिसाब से काफी इनकम्प्लीट डेफिनेशन है. लेकिन ICAI दैट इज इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स ऑफ इंडिया ने डिविडेंड की बहुत अच्छी डेफिनेशन दी है, जिनके हिसाब से डिविडेंड इज नथिंग बट अ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन टू द शेयर होल्डर्स आउट ऑफ द प्रॉफिट्स और रिजर्व्स फॉर दिस पर्पस. क्या आपको पता है कि एक बार कंपनी ने डिविडेंड डिक्लेयर कर दिया तो वो एक डेट बन जाता है जो कंपनी को पे करना ही पड़ता है, और अगर कंपनी ने डिविडेंड पे नहीं किया तो फिर कंपनी और जो ऑफिसर्स जिनको ये डिफॉल्ट के बारे में पता है उन्हें पनिशमेंट हो जाएगी अंडर सेक्शन 127 ऑफ द कंपनीज एक्ट. अच्छा, आप मुझे कमेंट सेक्शन में लिखकर बताना कि ऐसी कौन सी कंपनीज है जो बहुत अच्छा डिविडेंड देती हैं.
So the definition is not explaining the meaning of the word dividend. They are only saying that dividend will include interim dividend. It means provisions of final dividend will apply to interim dividend also. This act mentioned features of bonds because we wrote the word, sorry, we came across the word bond no over here. You want to write this? Let's discuss. What is the meaning of the word bond? Bond is generally, debentures are generally issued by companies and bond is generally issued by the government. Not there in your exam. It will not be asked, but bonds are issued for a longer period of time. They are generally issued by central government at a lower rate of interest because it is the government, no? There is no chance of default. That is why interest rate is low. Always secured. It is non-convertible into shares, equity shares. On liquidation, they are generally paid before the debenture holders. Inflation bond, floating interest rate bond, fixed interest rate bond. Floating means interest rate keeps changing, fixed means it is fixed. So these are features of bond. Again, you don't have this in exam, it is just extra knowledge from my side when you want to know what is the meaning of a bond, how is it different from debentures. Okay. Then you have the word document. See, whenever you see the word document, what does it include? What does it include? What is a document? Maybe a summon, you're calling someone, giving a notice, requisition means you request something, give an order, declaration, form, register. How is it issued? How? That document may be sent, issued, or kept either in persons of this act or under any other law for the time being in force. Like, for example, Income Tax Act. The Companies Act is not requiring me to maintain this register. Income Tax Act has said maintain the register. That is also a document. GST. According to GST department, I need to maintain this book or return, or I need to file a return. That's also a document. So document may be issued, it may be sent, it may be kept. Kept means it may be maintained. Either because it is mentioned by the Companies Act or any other law. How is it maintained? How are you maintaining it? You are maintaining it either in paper or electronic form. This is how we are maintaining. So see how it becomes very easy when you ask such questions. Employee stock option. Again, this will be covered when we study section 62 subsection 1 clause B, because we are going to study this in detail over there. Ma'am, everything is going to be discussed later on. Of course, these are just definitions. You are going to study all this later on. Okay. Now, what are employee stock options, also known as ESOP? See, ESOP is just an option given to the employee or a director to purchase the shares of a company. It's an option, it is not a compulsion. Now, let's say that the market price of the share is 100 rupees. But the exercise price means the predetermined price at which you can purchase is 70 rupees. You are getting at 70, market price is 100. Exercise this option, purchase the shares from the company at 70 rupees, sell it in the market at 100 rupees, you'll get a 30 rupees profit. Ma'am, why is this option given? It is basically an employee retention tactic. So I say that after 3 years you will get ESOP. So that employee will stay with me for 3 years. You will get ESOP only when the company's profit increases. So work hard, increase the company's profit, then I will give you ESOP. So it is basically an employee retention. And I gave you the ESOP today. Tomorrow you went to exercise that option. It doesn't happen that way. I have given you the ESOP, then you have to wait for 1 year or whatever period is determined by the company, and only then you can exercise that option. Ma'am, what if the market price is 100, but your exercise price, the price at which you can purchase is 120? Sorry, I will not exercise this option. I might as well purchase in the market at 100 rupees. There it is cheaper. So it's just an option. It's not a compulsion. If you want to buy the shares, buy it. Otherwise, leave it. Don't exercise that option. It means an option given either to the director, officer, or employee of either the company or its holding company or the subsidiary company, wherein they have the right to purchase or subscribe for the shares at a future date at a predetermined. So, to whom is this option given? Officer, director, employee of either company, holding company, subsidiary company. What is this option? To purchase or subscribe to the shares when at a future date, how at a predetermined price. Got it? This is A, B, C, D, and E. There are 5 points that you need to know. Then, who is an expert? Now, let's say that I want to construct a dam, and for that, I need money from the public. So, the company says, I need 1,000 crore. Will the public believe them? Oh, ma'am, how will we trust the company? I went to KPMG, one of the big fours. I told him that please uh, conduct a survey, or you go and inspect whether this dam can be constructed, and you give a report. So they gave a report. Then I circulated that among the public. See, KPMG feels this is a very good project. Now will you give me 1,000 crores? So they start trusting that person. That person is known as an expert. So expert includes, it's an inclusive definition. It is not defining who an expert is. It just says engineer, valuer, chartered accountant, company secretary, cost accountant, any other person who has the authority to issue a certificate in pursuance of any law for the time being enforced. Like I'm a doctor, I can issue doctor certificate. I'm an expert. My act, my law, the law applicable to doctor, it is allowing me to issue a certificate. I'm an expert. Chartered accountant, company secretary, cost accountant, any person who can give a certificate is known as expert. See, people rely on experts' report, experts' opinion, certificate. If the architect says this building is very strong, architect has given a certificate because his act allows him. Of course, everybody will trust that expert's opinion. So it includes an engineer, valuer, chartered accountant, company secretary, cost accountant, anyone who can give certificate. Ma'am, where will we use this definition of expert? It will be covered in the prospectus chapter and mentioned, maybe given here or there, but basically in prospectus chapter we will study the concept of expert. The expert is anyone who can give certificate. Okay. So CA, CS, valuer, like I want to value my antique jewelry. So I went to a valuer. I went to a person to value the shares of my company. They gave me a certificate. That person is an expert. So anyone who can give a certificate under the act which applies to them is an expert.
Hope you enjoyed today's session. I have covered everything in detail so that you are prepared to attempt any question asked in the exam. You can purchase my lectures from my website capreetyagarwal.com and do inform your friends also. Students, there's a small message which I would like to give you. If you want to succeed in your exam, your company, that is the people you hang out with, matters a lot. Let me tell you a story. Now, there's no animation. Nowadays, students have stopped relying on their imagination. They all want so much graphics and you want the other person to think for you. So just close your eyes and listen to the story and use your imagination. Just close your eyes and visualize. Okay. So an eagle's egg was placed in the nest of a countryside chicken. The egg hatched and the little eagle grew up thinking that it was a countryside chicken. The eagle did what the other chickens did. It scratched the dirt for seed, it clucked, it cackled. It never flew more than a few feet because it thought what the chickens did, that is what I supposed to do. One day he saw an eagle flying gracefully in the open sky. He asked the other chickens, "What is this beautiful bird?" The chickens replied, "That's an eagle. He's an outstanding bird, but you cannot fly like him because you're just a countryside chicken." So the eagle never gave a second thought, believing it to be true. He lived the life and he died the life of a countryside chicken, depriving him of his heritage because of his lack of vision. That was such a waste. He was born to win, but he was conditioned to lose. Now, the same thing is true for so many people like us. You are an eagle. You can fly like an eagle. But if you associate yourself with achievers, only then you will become one. If you associate yourself with thinkers, only then you will become one. But if you associate yourself with complainers, with people who just want to pass time and tell you, "Arey, why are you putting in so much effort? Why are you studying?" then you will also end up becoming a loser just like them. So now that you have started your studies, I want you to stay focused. I want you to choose your friends and company wisely. Study with students who encourage you to become the best version of yourself. So you can study in the library or you can form a group of like-minded people who are as enthusiastic and as motivated as you. Someone who constantly encourages you to study. So your company matters, your friends matter a lot. So this is just one small message which I wanted to share with you, and I hope that our association is fruitful, and I promise to give you my best, but I want to promise from your end also. I want you to study whatever is covered during the lecture. See students, you will not find any kind of time pass or some random topic that we are discussing, unnecessary motivation in my lecture. Sometimes it tends to be very dry. I agree with that. But because I avoid distractions, you will stay focused for that 1 hour. And when you finish that lecture, you will feel that you have learnt a lot during that session without getting distracted. But I promise I will connect with you after the lecture in the form of these videos and short stories and my experiences. I will try to incorporate them during the lecture also, but I don't want you to be distracted. I don't want the flow to be disturbed. So sometimes you may find that there is no such interaction in the lecture. But yes, after the lecture, I look forward to connecting with you in this manner. So there will always be an experience, a story that I want to share with you after the session. But during the session, let us try and concentrate on the concept that we are studying. All right, students. So let's wind up today's session. It was a fruitful one. We discussed so many new definitions, and I made you write notes which will help you to, recall all that in the exam. If you want any change to be made in the lecture, do connect with me. And if you're very happy with the lecture, then also give me your feedback, and please share this information with your friends also. Bye guys. I will see you in my next session where we discuss some more definitions and we continue with this chapter. Have a good day guys. Stay happy, stay blessed, and enjoy learning, because once you start enjoying this, it will be very easy, and I'm sure that law will become your favorite subject. All right. Bye bye. Take care.